All right, so let's do a little bit of an intro here. Adam, I'd say I struggle to find pictures of you, but that's not the case. I can find pictures of you pretty quick.
Uh,
No, no, I can't always complain. I can't explain the pictures that I find, but I can find pictures of you. I know this one here was from a year ago.
for
Slight
2019. Yep.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Sorry, I lost a year or two of my life due to something, but yeah, I think that's one of your inspiring pictures, right? I think that was one of the ones you really enjoyed. It was
Yeah.
great. You,
It's funny because for this whole time I never knew who that guy was in that picture, and then the bottom picture with me on laying on the table is the same guy. That's Andrew. Whatever his last name, Andrew J. Net. What is his last name? Somebody throw that one out. It's escaping me. Um.
I've
Anyway,
forgotten
he
too.
presented with Johan
Johnson? Yeah,
Johnson. Yeah, Andrew Johnson.
yeah,
So he's like, "Oh yeah, that was me in that picture." I was like, "Dude, thank you. I've been waiting like this all time." I'm like, "I don't know who this guy
yeah.
is." So
Oh,
same
that's
deal.
good. That's good. Community reconnected. Good.
Yeah.
Um, and was this from the Intune training, or is this a prep of Intune training, or
That
nothing to
was
do with
right
Intune?
before we did our Intune training live. That was our group shot. We were prepping all the content, making sure autopilot would fail and all that sort of
All
stuff.
right. All right, good. And I have one more pick I need to show, and we're gonna have a little fun with it because
Oh, great.
I'm gonna ask the audience to caption this photo. We need a caption. We need something there.
That may or
I
may
don't.
not have been about 2 a.m.
I was gonna say I don't know what time of day that was, but it was probably appropriate for breakfast. But
Yes.
let's see. Oh, somebody got a violin session late at night. I missed that.
Oh yeah, that was yeah.
Yeah.
Fun. Matthew Teagarden brought out girlfriend, wife, somebody, and she played a couple songs on the violin.
Oh,
There
nice.
you
I
go.
missed
That's
it.
his name. Thank you.
Yeah, Teagarden.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, we might have to find the Miami picture, or maybe what was it? Day three from Miami? Is that
Yeah, the
the
day
one?
three. Yeah,
All
the day
right.
three video.
Maybe
Yeah.
we'll throw that one up after your session here.
Good
So
lord.
yeah. So big thank you, Adam. Really appreciate everything you do for us, everything you do for the community. I know we wore you out just like we did our other two presenters here today at MMS. And here we are. We dragged you back again. But just glad you're here. Glad you're able to spend time with us. So thank you, and I'll hand it over to you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This is this was one of those. I appreciate you inviting me. And I would actually like to introduce my special guest co-speaker, Sean. So Sean wasn't sure that he was going to make it, and he has made it. And so with zero prep, but apparently all the swag. Well done, Sean.
I
We
I
are.
planned on that piece, yeah.
Sean wasn't sure if he was going to get stuck on customer calls all day. So Sean and I had the opportunity to give an admin or give speak at two MMSs now at Jazz and now at MOA
Miami,
and
not Jazz,
and
but yeah.
Miami. Sorry,
Yeah.
yes, you're sorry. And the best part about MOA was that I was present, and Greg was as well, I believe, right? The moment that Sean opened up his email that said, "Congrats on making being awarded MVP." So well done, Sean. I love being part of that story. So
I'm
um,
glad you were there. It was a lot of fun. So
yeah, absolutely. Um,
It's awesome.
so we haven't actually done any prep for this from since MMS.
that's
But
not completely true. Like 2 hours ago, Adam sent me a message saying my stuff's not working with it.
fair enough. Yes, I haven't done anything new or different from there. So I guess with a show of virtual hands, how many folks on this uh, actually have already attended one or more of my admin service or mine and Sean's admin service sessions at this point? Trying to get a gauge for how bored you guys are going to be in this and see what we can do. All right, so just a handful of folks. So that's actually decent. Um, yeah, the Adam service. Thanks, Gary. Um, so basically, kind of want to I want to make this interactive and Q&A, but I also want to give you for those of you who haven't seen this stuff yet, I want to make sure we have a baseline for what admin service is and why we're talking about it, and then get into what's possible. Without getting into the weeds on things, we've essentially got a PowerShell module to go through, and then some cool things we've been working on with Power Apps. I mean, even moments after we finished our session, we found new stuff that were like, "You got to be kidding me! How did we miss this?" Like through all the time we've been messing with this, we missed some just obvious things that were already published out there that people were doing with this. So
That
and we're still
credited
working.
Adam, and he had read before.
I had actually read it before. It was like, oh, you got to be. So we thought we were being innovative, and we were just copycats. Regardless, we still feel there's some value here to talk about with admin service. I've been banging this drum since I discovered it. What was Ignite 2018 or something? It's been in the works. There's a guy named Anton on the config manager dev team that has been at both multiple MMSs, and so in Miami got to be friends with him, and turns out he knows this stuff really well. He's writing some of the code for admin service, and so we got to spend a lot of time with him at MOA as well, just picking his brain and talking through what we were thinking about, how we could use this and leverage it, and trying to get more features added and make this extensible. So we keep saying this. I don't have any slides, but I'm going to tell you what we're talking about. So and really, Sean, since you're here, I'll let you talk. So let's talk about what's an API and why are we talking about this?
Yeah, okay. So that's a good place to start. So the admin service is just like Microsoft Graph. It's a REST API. You know, it's built kind of on the OData protocol and standards, which are supposed to be largely standardized, which the admin service mostly is, but not quite. So don't expect everything to work perfectly. But generally, the idea with a REST API is you've got a common internet endpoint, or which essentially you'll see a URI or URL that is pretty much an internet endpoint that you're reaching out to touch. And you're passing in a method, which is basically a verb: get, post, put, patch, or delete, and telling it to do something against that specific endpoint. So Adam is being kind enough to show us here all of the documentation on it. If you ever really want to get a good nap, go ahead and start reading this documentation.
Yeah, this is the official OData docs.
This is the standard.
So if you're trying to do things in admin service using these things, they mostly won't work, but they should. And so hit up the devs and say, hey, fix this. So
yes, but yeah, at a very high level, pretty much any request that you see is going to start with that method. So essentially get, and then it's going to have an endpoint, which that's what Adam's showing here. So in this case, the SMS provider FQDN would essentially be your SCCM server, admin service, and then he's got the two different endpoints, WMI or version 1.0. So essentially the version route you may hear.
Yep.
And you'll simply make a request against that, and it will return an item, or if you make a post request, you can update an item. And I know both Adam and I have a lot of different examples of how you can do that. But essentially, if you've ever worked directly with Microsoft Graph, that is exactly what we're doing here with the admin service.
Yep.
It's essentially just bringing it into the same standard, basically.
So that's the basics of, all right, so that's what an API is. Well, how does that tie into Config Manager? So today, if you've worked with Config Manager for any period of time, you know that Config Manager runs on top of WMI. And let's see, Explorer. Am I on the right machine? I am. Should be here. I thought I had WMI. Well, there it is. All right. So the WMI Explorer, or WMI Explorer, written by Vinay Pimnami, I pull this up in pretty much every single session I ever do and give him credit because this is the best tool ever. It's better than WebM Test. So the WMI Explorer will let you browse through things. This is not about WMI Explorer, but this shows WMI backend that that Config Manager is built on. And you can see there are 1,300 classes listed here. And so you could effectively hit each one of these classes, or some of them are you can't directly hit, and there won't be things. But for the most part, you should be able to query these classes using WMI or PowerShell, or any you pick your poison there to be able to get here. And so for years, historically, this is what you've done. You've used either the PowerShell module built into the console. So here I can go and launch an ICE session. It's going to hook me into the config manager site server, and it's going to look up a registry key to find the module name. And then it's going to actually using PowerShell remoting, I'm going to be attached to my config manager site. And let's see if I just do get CM site. There we go. So I've just used WMI to get the data that I was browsing here directly on SMS site. So great. So why do I need a web service to do this thing? Because it's cool is why. So let's try this. So I'm going to hit WMI SMS site. Look at that. I just used the web browser to get to that. Now you'll notice that I didn't do anything special. I didn't have to load PowerShell. I don't have to do anything to get there. I'm going to jump over here on a whole different VM. It might not even have the config manager console installed. I'm certainly not running the PowerShell command to get to anything. And look at that. Now, it's not formatted pretty because I've cheated and I have a JSON prettify something over here that's making it look nice, one of these JSON formatter. But general idea is that, well, if you've got rights to if you've got RBAC privileges to be able to query the admins or to query config manager, you can query it from the web. And so that's great. But how does that, how do I expose that to make it usable? It's kind of the challenge that we've been up against as we've been working through this. Like, all right, why do I need to use the web service when I can just I'm already on-prem and I can just use the things that are available? And so, kind of what we'll get to in a minute, it has led us, those questions have kind of led us where we've gotten of like, all right, how do we make this way better? How do we make config manager exposable elsewhere? But before I get into that, let me just show you how this is currently being used within config manager. So, if we go into config manager, you'll notice there's a node called security. So the things under security, and then if you've ever done the community hub, so if I go to security console connections, these connections, this data is actually being pulled directly from the admin service. So your console today is already has already swapped out WMI and is pulling this data. So this is the same query that is being run in the console whenever you hit that node in the console. And that is being done via, so if you browse into where your console is installed, this is all the config files and things for your console. And one of the files in here, it's called site configuration node, has the query in it already. So this is the query that it's actually running. So if you were to look through this whole doc, you can see how this is how it's built out and everything, what's being called. And there's a whole, we're not going to go all the way down that space, but you can see here that I'm calling the admin, console admin's data, and then this is the type of class that it's going to return, and then they use that class to determine how to lay it out and everything. But ultimately, I think in New Orleans, if anybody went to that session, Kim Oppelfins and I, we goofed off with this, and we modified our site console XML to use admin service for a whole bunch of the nodes, and it just works. And it's kind of cool because eventually that's what they're going to do. But anyway, it's just showing you how it's being used, I guess. There's no real practical value to like actually going and doing that, but just knowing how they're doing it is nice to have. All right, so how do I know that that's happening? If we go under, so by virtual show of hands, whatever, you just raise your hand in your own room, it's okay. How many of you use the SMS prov log to figure out what command is maybe being run whenever you're navigating in the console? You're like, hey, how'd they get that view? What's the data that's being called? What's happening there? If if you didn't know this, this is always a great tip. So whenever you're navigating within the console, you can come through here and decipher, all right, here's the SQL command that was being run for whatever thing I attempted to click on in the console. And so if you watch that as you're navigating, that will, see if I can do it side by side. I know I've got limited screen real estate. So if I navigate into my assets and I go, oh, sorry, I need to get the window. All right, see if you can at least see it move. There we go. Can we do that? Look at that. All right. So as I navigate around, you can see SMS prov log is moving. All right. So that's great. That's not using admin service. That's just using WMI. But the great thing about that is I can go in and grab the SQL commands that were run, and I can get this data from however they got it within SQL or WQL or however you want to do it. Okay. So great. Here's the admin service log. So it's also in the same logs folder. And as I navigate back over here, or if you just sit and watch and someone has a console open, you'll see heartbeat jobs happening. So there we go. We got hit with the console connections. I know that may have been fast. So let me click away and I'll put the cursor up one line so it won't auto scroll. And then there we go. We got some more data. So now I can see, oh, that node is using console connections. Or if I go down to community, I think Community Hub should be using it. I hope it is. I might not have, I haven't tried this one on here in a bit. There it is. So there we go. So that was getting the site definition. That wasn't the one. Well, it did some things. They're supposed to be, maybe I'm missing that one. Regardless, the hub items are also, there we go. There's, all right. So if we were to go get this, put this in our browser, we can get to hub items. Maybe should be able to. 404. Okay, I quit. I don't know. That works. Something weird with my syntax there. It's okay. So effectively, you can kind of see how that's all being worked within the console. Well, Sean, is that the only place that we're using this? Surely they didn't just put a web service to use it in like 4 places in the console, right?
Yeah, I mean, where else would you ever want to do config manager stuff except for right on the console on your server every single time? I don't get it.
Right?
But I don't suppose that there's some sort of way of doing this from the internet, is there?
Well, I mean, remember that time where they renamed this stuff and they called it MIM and then MECM and MIMCM and MIM, and people still don't have a clue how to call SCCM something different?
It's almost like, what if you could just like attach your SCCM instance to the cloud?
Like with like a cloud attacher thing?
Like your tenant, like a tenant.
I think tenant. I think
that's
did they change the name of that? Wasn't it like, oh look, it's now
cloud attached? Yeah,
it is cloud attached. Ooh, well that's cool. So did you guys know that you can cloud attach? It's not the same as doing co-management. No. Tenant attach allows you to connect your config manager server to the cloud via the admin service effectively. So if we go to cloud attach, and all you do is just hit that guy and apply, and that's pretty much it. You don't need any of these other pieces enabled for that to work. You just do cloud attach, hit that guy, and you don't need the cloud management gateway, any of those things. You don't need any Azure resources to do it. I mean, well, sort of. It makes a couple of app registrations and things, but you can just connect your whole config manager site to the MIM admin center, and it will do things. So let me be clear. This isn't the Intune portal. This is the MIM admin center, the Microsoft Endpoint Manager admin center, which encompasses Microsoft Endpoint Manager, encompasses config manager and Intune. Well, there's a reason this isn't called the Intune portal. This is because it integrates multiple components into this console, and one of those things is you get via cloud attach, we can get our devices shown in our console. So Sean, can I manage Intune or can I manage servers with Intune?
Well, no, you can't manage servers with Intune, but can you
So,
manage them with the MEM admin center?
well, I mean, why in the world are my config manager servers in, why do I have a domain controller in the cloud in my Intune console?
It's a great
This
question.
this is a result of cloud attach.
Yeah.
So you'll notice, I always do that every time. Okay, so you'll notice there's 3 different types of devices listed here. I have Intune managed devices. I have co-managed devices, which are not the same as these, which are config manager managed devices. These are both managed by config manager. The difference here is that tenant attached devices are devices that are not, or cloud attached, are devices that are not natively controlled by Intune. They're not Intune enrolled. They're still fully managed and controlled by config manager. Co-managed devices are devices that Intune now also has authority over and can take actions on. So if we want to compare the difference between them, duplicate the tab so that it shows side by side if I can. All right, so I'm going to get 2 different devices. So I'm going to get my config manager server on the left. I'm going to get my CM pivot one on the right. I know this is going to be really confusing because it's not going to be as obvious. Let me shrink this out a little bit so we can see. All right, so you notice, try that again. All right, so you notice over on the left, my config manager, there it is, okay. You'll notice, okay, so my config manager managed box has very few actions up here, but these are familiar actions, aren't they? These are the ones that you can do from, the instant client actions that you can do within the console. So I can sync machine policy, user policy, app eval. But over here on the right, I've got retire, wipe, delete, sync. These are all Intune commands. But if I hit this little ellipse, look at that. I also have these. So a co-managed tenant attached device or cloud attached device will have these items added. So these only come as a result of cloud attached, not co-management. So you'll notice all the other things over here, these are all cloud attached components. So this device has cloud attached items, co-management items, and Intune items all mixed in together. Actually, I should be clear. Co-management and Intune are one and the same in this context. But yeah, so you get like managed apps. Well, those are Intune apps. But over here, I've got applications. And over here, I've got applications. Well, these are actually coming directly from config manager, which is kind of cool. So I can prove that to you. Go on over here to my admin console, admin service log as we navigate, and look at that. I've got this whole long string here where I've got a request coming in for the admin service for a device. It says available applications, this big long string. It's just, that's all just filtering data out and everything. But I can see that that it tells me the user that was using to do it, and it came from a tenant. Like, this is a whole lot more data than we had when we were doing this, the basics ones up here, where we're just doing everything locally. And so we're sending a lot more data, or a lot of more information in. We've got an authorization header and all sorts of things, but ultimately we've got some data back. And that's because this data that we're loading through Cloud Attach is all coming from our tenant attach. So I'm going to try to do this side by side here. So watch the admin service log as we hit things. I'm going to navigate down this tree. So it's going to hit, there we go. So we just got resource collection membership. And what's cool, we can take that data and we're going to copy that out and go put it back into here. See if we got that right. And there we go. So this is the command that it just called from the cloud for our devices. This is what admin service was built for. It was a way for Microsoft to be able to expose WMI to the cloud, because you can't do, there's no way to do RBAC and things like that. Like there's no way to get to the to get WMI over HTTP. Like they just functionally that just wasn't good. So admin service is essentially a layer on top of WMI. So all right, so that's how Microsoft is using it. That's what they're building. So the way to think about this is everything new that Microsoft is building for Config Manager that doesn't already leverage some other thing that's part of Config Manager is being built on this versioned route of the v1.0. So if you just go on your Config Manager environment today and you hit this URL, you should be able to load this v1.0, or if you hit the metadata route, this will actually give you even more data. And it will show you all of the entities that are available as part of this route. So you can effectively hit each of these items and do things with them. So I mentioned earlier that we had like the CM pivot. All of your CM pivot commands are coming over the admin service. It's not built on top of WMI. Things like the hub. So all the hub items, those are all coming from admin service. So if we switch over here then to WMI, now I'm not going to do the dollar metadata on this because it will barf. But effectively, because it's 1,300 items, it's like 5 megs at least worth of metadata that'll come down if we were to hit that. The best way to do that is to do an invoke REST method on it and like pull that data from locally in PowerShell and then like export it to XML and use it. But you can do it. But ultimately, all the new stuff is going on the version route, and the old stuff is going on the WMI side. And all the WMI commands and things should already be exposed and available to be used just like you would if you were hitting WMI directly. So that's kind of the primer for what admin service is and what it does and why it exists. So Sean, do you want to talk about like the cool bits? How can we use this? How can we build this and build our own scripting and automation around this stuff and actually leverage it?
It's almost like if Microsoft can access this stuff from the internet, shouldn't we be able to access it from the internet?
I think so.
Shouldn't we be able to do some pretty cool stuff? Well, let me go ahead and share my screen. I have, for anyone who was in our session or any of our sessions in MOA, I have a very special goal of trying not to expose my passwords to everybody this time. But just in case I do.
It's all right. I've got his passwords in my code, so I'll show it later.
Yeah, we've got each other's passwords. They're very secure passwords too. Okay. So you guys should see my screen popping up here in a second.
Yes, sir.
All right. So the kind of this first piece here, coming up just a little bit here so I don't show my passwords. What I've got going on right here is just a really basic script that I've just created just so that I can test my access to the admin service. And there's a few different ways that we've kind of come up to connect with it. And this was actually earlier, Adam was kind of referencing how much time that we've spent trying to figure out how to connect, only in the end to have someone actually left a comment on a different session than the one I did with Adam, saying, gosh, I was hoping you were going to do something like this, and that it was connecting to the admin service with Power Apps. And it actually answered the big, great issue that Adam and I have had. So as we were walking through this, we were looking at the different ways that we could connect, and we were trying to decide, hey, what's the best way to access the admin service from the internet? We've already got the cloud management gateway out there, so it'd be great if we could connect from there, but we weren't quite getting the performance we expected or wanted. So we started playing with Azure App Proxy, and we figured out how to connect through Azure App Proxy and do cool things. And then after we did that, we spent a very late night figuring out how to connect through Cloud Management Gateway, and it was actually way easier than we thought. But with that being said, just to kind of show what we're able to do. So right here, I'm just doing a really quick call to the Microsoft Authentication Library. So I'm going to be authenticating with MSAIL. to go ahead and get a token. And so if we look at this, I should just have an access token returned. If you've never looked at one of these tokens, there's a lot of really valuable information here. Stuff like I need to restart Visual Studio Code, but we're not going to do that right now. So pull down a browser window that doesn't have a bunch of crap in it. Go to jwt.io.
Oh, hey, Sean, did
Yeah.
you know there's a module built into PowerShell that you can use to get your token info to decrypt the token?
I did not
I've been
know
using
that.
it, and it's wonderful. I love it.
Well, that would be, way better to show off than this. But if
It's pretty. Look at all the colors.
Yeah, look it's colorful.
That is pretty.
Yeah. Are we talking about me or the
Oh,
token?
no, the
Yeah.
code. Yeah, yeah.
So if we come in here, if you look at what we're getting with this token, first thing we're looking at is we've got our audience. This is actually, in this instance, if you've ever gone through and you've set up those cloud services in Config Manager, you know that it creates that essentially a native app and a web app. And so this is basically connecting into, or the audience here is that Config Manager web app. So this is essentially the way we figured out how to connect in was to get a token based off of this as the audience. So that's what this is doing. Is it saying that we're going to go ahead and connect against that? And if we look down here a little bit further, we'll see that my scope is user impersonation. So I'm just impersonating my user account as I go ahead and hit the cloud management gateway. So all I really did is I just got a token that can be used to hit basically to hit the admin service no matter how I connect to it. So I can use the same token whether I'm connecting on premise or if I'm connecting through Azure App Proxy or if I'm connecting through the cloud management gateway.
And,
so
and to I guess really make sure we drive that one home is that the way I was hitting it directly in my browser was using my current logged on user credential, not a token. But
yes.
What we're going to do moving forward with what we're going to show you is all commands that we're running remotely against Config Manager from boxes outside of our tenant using token auth, either using our Azure or our cloud management gateway URL, which is what he's got on the upper line, not the one he's drawing on. The one with the Azure East stuff in it. That's your CMG. And the other one is an Azure App Proxy version of the URL. But the most important piece, it doesn't have to be over Azure App Proxy, would be if you were doing this on-prem and you wanted to use token auth instead of current user auth, you would just simply change where in the URL where it says admin service, you would change it to token auth. You would add that in there, and that would allow you to pass in a token instead of current logged on user credential.
Yep. And so that's essentially what I was just trying to show here was that's all we're really doing is we've just gone ahead and appended the token auth in here to the URL. So just for the sake of showing that both options work, I'm first going to go ahead and use that. Sorry, I know this script is an absolute mess. I literally just use it for troubleshooting connections. So
I used it earlier and it solved all my problems.
Didn't it? Isn't it great?
It did.
Especially with my credentials right at the top.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to just return SMSR user through the Azure App Proxy. Let's see if the demo gods favor me today. And so there I just returned all of my user objects against Azure App Proxy. Now, just so I don't have a false positive like I had at MOA, we'll go ahead and clear that out. And we're going to do the same thing, but this time, and this is actually returning the device endpoint. We're just going to go ahead and hit this through Cloud Management Gateway. When you hit that, you'll notice that was way faster. So that's one thing that we kind of found as we were working through this is when you connect directly through Cloud Management Gateway, it is going to be a lot faster than it was when we connected through the Azure App Proxy. It's essentially just about the number of hops that it's taking. So one is just essentially connecting directly. The other one is popping up to Azure using the App Proxy.
Yep.
But both of them function. I think the probably the biggest thing that we found as we were working through this is while using Azure App Proxy works, It is a pain to set up. I was going to document and share out all the instructions on how to do it. Maybe someday I still will, but it was literally like 7 different sections to get everything set up. Because
and the best part about this was, as we were prepping for MOA, we had been doing Azure App Proxy, and had kind of just put the CMG URL on the back burner and just completely forgotten about it. And one night about, I don't know, it was like 1 a.m. We were finishing up, and I was like, Sean, we should double check to see if maybe this just works with the CMG without the app proxy shenanigans. And it took us a minute to finally realize what we were doing wrong. But we got it, and we said, "Oh my God, this was so much easier. Why didn't we just do this?" So it's been a lot of trial and error on this stuff, but it's been a great learning opportunity. We have learned so much about token auth and all this other shenanigans with the app registrations and things in Azure.
So to really expound on it took a minute. It took us 2 hours to not get it right that night. And the next morning I woke up and realized I was just hitting the wrong URL the whole time. Like as soon as I changed
exactly the problem I had today,
yeah.
because I had deleted my CMG or my management point at some point. So that number, that 720 in your URL there, that changed. And so that was what I hit earlier today when I called him and said, "Man, something's broken. I can't get this." So yeah, good fun times there.
So that's cool and all. But you know what's really cool, Adam? When I have a really good internet connection, my demos work.
Oh, yes.
I've
seen that.
Yeah. So this is cool. And I'm not trying to cut to the chase too much, and we can always circle back and deal with different things. But as we were playing this, we were saying, well, what can we really do with this? You know, the session topic or the session title that Adam had come up with was Config Manager Admin Services. Is there anything it can't do? And I think at the end of our session in Miami, I made the off the cuff comment, hey, yeah, you could connect to this with, with something like Power Apps, and you could create a custom Power App that would be able to manage things. I had no idea if we could make that work, but that was kind of the path I set out to figure out before MOA. And so really the question was, what can we do? Can we use this to connect into Azure App Proxy? And I really wish this would stop. Sorry, I'm just being annoyed by Windows 10 banner ads apparently. But, and like I said, we can dig into this a lot more later. But if I connect in here.
And by connect in, you're connecting to your iPhone.
Yes, that is exactly what I'm doing here. So this is my iPhone. You will see I've got a million notifications and a bunch of icons and things because my desktops are always a mess. I'm going to connect in here to Power Apps. One random thing I noticed recently, there is a Power Apps preview feature to unbundle your apps. I haven't played with it, so I don't actually know if it works. But so these are a bunch of different Power Apps that I had kind of created. This one is one that what it's doing right now, I'm going to hit do work, and it's going to go out and it's going to get my auth token. It's doing that all in the background. You can see the little dots flying around at the top. And here in just a second, it should tell us. Oh, my version might not have it. So let's see if it actually worked. So I'm just using the Office 365 user connector right now. And this is going out. It's returning users for my Office 365 tenant. Now, Adam, you don't think if I hit this button that says get CM user that it could get a user object from Configuration Manager, could it?
Well, I sure hope so, because it's going to be really embarrassing if it doesn't.
Oh, you mean like everything? Oh, look at that.
Ah, look
you
at
see
that.
How fast that was when we're.
I don't believe it. Show me the log. No, don't do it.
It's funny you should ask.
I swear we didn't rehearse this.
We didn't rehearse this at all. It's amazing and uncanny how well organized we are.
This is the 4th different way we've presented this at this point.
Okay, so I'm in the Eastern time zone, and since I didn't have this open a second ago, let's look at our timestamps. 5:51 p.m., 5:51 p.m. So that literally just happened. But for the sake of argument, let's go ahead and pop this back up. because I've got another button here.
Oh, I like buttons. Click it.
Get
Click
user
it. Click it.
devices. Let's
Click it.
get user devices. Oh, look, it did something. And
Ignore those exceptions. Those are
ignore an
weird.
exception. Yeah, we'll ignore that. But that's actually a common error. But you'll see right here, like Adam was saying, we've got all of this information that's coming in about the request, where it came from. It came
So
across
click on
my
that
Azure App
processing, the
Proxy.
first line, to
Yep.
show the URL that we hit. So there you go.
Yep.
So that's the URL that he passed in from his phone app.
Yep. So that literally just came in from my phone app. Now this is where it's going to get cool though, Adam, if I don't let my phone lock. So got this device over here, Chuck's 4, and this is where things got a little bit hairy and at MOA. If I go to my action screen over here, you'll see a list that looks really familiar. This is literally all of the different client actions, or most of the client actions that you can run from Configuration Manager. I don't suppose I could restart a VM, which that's the one that's sitting here in the back. So it doesn't seem quite as cool because this is a VM that's sitting here in my home lab, and I'm sitting at home. But this is going from my cell phone out across the internet through my Azure App Proxy, and then it's coming back into my lab. And I don't suppose that I can push a client action to a Configuration Manager managed device from my phone.
Just do it already. Do it already.
Oh, look at that. We're running our
see it.
client action. I don't suppose that we're going to actually see it pop up something down here. Look at that. Restart required. So I was
come
just
off mute
successfully.
and applaud, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, and just kind of take it one step further. So Adam has other steps in his version of the app that I don't have.
I don't have the cool the cool mirroring thing, so I'm gonna have to just cheat. That's all right.
Sorry, I hit the button when I wasn't showing this when I moved this out of the way. So you'll see I just hit the button to get CM script. So what this did is it returned a list of scripts that I've got available in Config Manager. Invoke Panic does not work nearly as cool as I had hoped it was going to. So we're going to skip that and go for the decidedly boring create scheduled task. And my unregistered screen mirroring app is going to tell you all it's unregistered. And we're going to go ahead and hit that run CM script option. Now, if we come back over here, so this has already ran my action by the time I was able to click back in over here. So if I come back over here to my task scheduler, you see right here, there's only one folder. Let's go ahead and refresh it. There it is. I've got a task folder, so I've now pushed a scheduled task. So this one was actually just a quick scheduled task that I had created for a customer at some point. That just to kind of show you though that here I was able to run a configuration manager script against a configuration manager managed device, from my cell phone.
Well,
I'm sorry.
So in the question in the comments over here, Kevin Johnson asked this a few minutes ago. Can you invoke a script and pass parameters to the script? And that's exactly what he just did here.
That is
on the
literally what I just did. And I didn't even see that question. I mean, it's not like I just magically created that over here. I would have you show your cool version, Adam, but you don't have your screen mirroring.
I have it. I can do it.
You can do it from your browser. Yeah.
Got it. Let's do it. All right. So get this back over here. All right. So it's not going to be screen mirrored on my phone, but here is all the stuff in Power Apps that we built out. And if I go into mine, this is the Power Apps canvas. Power Apps has been just the learning curve that you never want to be on. I've hated every minute of it. I cannot fathom.
I saw recently
more in this
a tweet where someone called Power Apps Excel or Microsoft Access for the cloud, and I kind of hate how accurate that is. I mean, I love it, but totally for tweaking, for tweaking and messing around with stuff.
It is absolutely brutal. I mean, I'm learning it, and I think there's a ton of value in it. But man, it is definitely a steep learning curve. The reason to learn it though is because it really has a ton of value. And you know, I want to know how to do it. I want to be able to do things effectively with it. And you know, it's just kind of one of those deals. So so I'm going to do the same thing that you did, except I'm going to go and get CMCB. I'm going to search for a device. So we do have the same, roughly the same app. I made some late night tweaks one night and spiced mine up a little bit.
Working with Adam on anything means there's going to be a lot of late nights. And when you're done working because you think it's too late, he's just getting started.
All right. So before I click that, I'm going to show you. There was a session I did for MeMug a while back that turned into this. There's been this long running joke about getting GIFs in Software Center that so I wrote a basic JavaScript based web page to interact with the admin service just as a joke, and it still works, which is kind of cool. It sort of works. It doesn't really know what machine it's on or anything, but check it out. This is using admin service, and I can install apps. I can click here and it'll install apps on whatever device is listed here. That's the problem. You can't pass a parameter. So it never became a full-fledged thing. But this is just, it's hitting the admin service to pull this data all just in a basic JavaScript web page. And so I can even go hit it here. CM01. ASD.NET/admin service. No, software center. See if that works. I've got cert things that it's doing. And so there we go. So this is equivalent. I mean, this is basically, hey, I wrote a web page that's consuming the admin service and can take actions from the admin service to do things. So, you know, if you're just looking for, we're trying to give you examples. I'm like, here, this is what you can do. So if you don't want to go get into Power Apps, you can build just a regular web page that can go and pull data. And whenever I click on these guys, right now that actually just triggered the install on the wrong server, but it also will jump over into Software Center and show the app there once you've clicked it. So if I did this right, CMCB, CM pivot. I can't type while people are watching.
It's also, you know, Friday afternoon.
All right, so I'm going to hit that again, and then going to let that open my Software Center. And then if we were to watch not the scripts log, shoot, the app enforce log, we should be able to see this hit in a minute, I think, or not, or it's going to be. It's going to let me down, isn't it? It's probably because of doing it from the web page. Anyway, just know that you could do that if this was going to work on me. But let's not do it on that machine that way. Let's go over here and let's get apps back from our Power App. Come on. Look at that. We have GIFs on our phone too. It's kind of cool. And so if I click on one of these, we haven't finished the UI to make it look pretty and everything, but effectively I can drill through and get to an app. And I'll show you side by side. This is what you get in the web portal for a machine. And this would be the same stuff. So I'm trying to deliver the same data, same experience as you drill through. That 7 there represents like the status, one of these, you know, whether it's installed or not. I just haven't stitched all that stuff up. But that's equivalent to what we're getting there. And so if I hit this, that should, I'm on the right machine. Oh, that's why it didn't work. I put in the wrong device name on my web browser when I did it.
It'll do that, yeah.
It will. All right, so, but if I go back into my applications and I was to click on Adobe Reader, the dumpster fire, that's not where I wanted to click on it. Cheated now. It'll get there. Come on, do it. Let me go. I know I'm clicking too much and I've messed up the wow factor here. Stand by. Okay, so on the BGB server log, so BGB, big green button, this is the fast channel, all the instant communication stuff that you do for from config manager to devices gets logged in BGB server log. And so I can see that it did in fact do a push task to a client, and it's got a task ID, and you can actually go look up that task ID and see what it's doing in the database and get a status from it. And I can actually come back here into my admin service log, and I can see that it created a approved request for, so that's actually the one that I clicked from Software Center that created the approved request. So I think I still have the issue here where my installer from my mobile version of this, oh, there it is. It
There
did.
it goes.
Look at that. Hey, all right. So, so it just created a new approved request and sent that in, and go back to the machine. Ooh, my client logs are scrolling. Look at that.
Something's happening.
It's giving me some messages from CCM messaging. And if I go into my installation status, please show me reader installing something. Look at that. Look at that.
Nice.
Worked. All right. So that's all that, oh, that's almost all we've got. But wait, there's more.
Got that
What if you
other
don't-
thing.
What if you are archaic, like Brian Dam, and just want to use just text to do things? Brian Dam hates cell phones. Just FYI, that's the. All right. So I've been spending some time trying to write to make this easy to use for automation. And so I've started writing a PowerShell module that I still haven't quite published, but working on. I've got it published on a repo right now, and I was working on the Azure automation piece of it to build and put it in the PowerShell gallery before I got on. So hopefully you can get that done soon-ish. But effectively, I'm just going to import the module. And what we have to do initially is we have to initialize, because we need to connect to Azure Key Vault to go and get secrets. The main thing here is that we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how can we do all this stuff securely without exposing passwords and things like that. And so when you get into Azure app registrations and client IDs and all of those things, it gets complicated. And so we're leveraging Azure Key Vault to do to create secrets, much like David was talking about earlier. So I'm creating some secrets here, and if we go and look in the secret, we can see the secret value. And so all we're doing, there's no magic here. We're just shoving in data that we need for this app to work. So to get there, though, I have to be able to auth to that secret vault. And so I need to tell it, here's my secret vault. And then the code will go out and let me auth to the vault and be able to get the right credentials to then go get me a token using the values from the vault. Don't have to get into too much detail in there. So I've got multiple ways you can initialize this. So you can initialize it using without the key vault, and just you could run this directly on your on-prem environment and use it strictly using your local URL without using the CMG or web or Azure App Proxy URLs. In this case, I've got a parameter to be able to allow it to use the CMG. And so I'm just going to run that, and it should output a log entry here to tell me that it's going to get me an auth token. But first, it's going to ask, hey, what's your username and password? Because we don't want that embedded in the thing. So, and then it told me, all right, so this is because I told it to use CMG, it's telling me now it's going to use CMG to do my queries. And just like we've done with all these other things, if you're using the PowerShell module for a config manager or any of the other things we're doing, now all we're doing is just doing a request against config manager to get this data. Now, I've got some kind of weird bug in my environment, in my config manager lab, that just like the first time I hit things, specifically like CM device and stuff, they just take a minute to go through, and I don't quite understand why, but they just do. So give it a second here. So you can see it's thinking about it. It's got the request. It just takes about 40 seconds. I think I've got some kind of weird indexing thing in the database. If I go re-index, it just magically works again. But there you go. So using the PowerShell module, I'm able to get the device. If I want to get, there's a difference between the device node on the versioned route versus the WMI version of that. So that I've got two different flavors of it. If I want to get a user or get all users, I can do this. Or if I want to get a specific user, I've got parameters you can pass in to get a user by name or whatever. So without boring you, just like here, look, I'm running another command. I've built out the ability to build an app. So the idea was I was trying to build birth to death. Like I want to create an app. I want to deploy an app, birth to death. I want to be able to make a collection and deploy and all the things. So largely got that working. I think the only piece that I don't have yet is like the update distribution points and things to be able to actually replicate it out. But as you can see here, I've got all this is what I've got available currently. So you can create collections, collection rules. You can approve and deny config manager scripts. You can create an application. You can run scripts. You can get the script results, get users, user machine relationships. So that's where you're setting the primary user of devices. You can trigger all the client actions. So depending on which actions you want, you can hit those. Let me show you in the enums here. So these are all the client actions that you potentially can trigger. And in fact, I know that we're missing because there's now they have the AV actions as well that you can add in here for Defender. So I need to add those in as options. So that's kind of where I'm at this point. Haven't been able to go much beyond that, but I've got.
So we actually have a question here while you're in here, Adam.
Yeah.
Kevin asked a question if we can pass in parameters. Can you go to your invoke run CM script? I don't remember if you've got that built in there or not, so I don't want to answer the question wrong.
Yeah. So good question. So I mean, technically you can do it. So let's see, invoke run CM script, and no,
I don't know if you
have the
built
parameters.
Yeah.
So and the trick with the parameters is going to be the body object that you send in will have to have to be formatted the right way. So that's a good question. I haven't gone down that deep in that. It will run a basic script that with no parameters right now, but effectively the answer is yes, you can. You just can't with what I've got right now with this. But that's a really good question too, though, because is it going to be? I'm trying to figure out where you'd find the format for that, because I was wanting to go, if it's a WMI based thing, which this one is not, you would be able to just go into WMI and get this and look up the format of what you would need for it. But for this, you would need to go. Oh, you know what? We can cheat. Hold on, let's cheat.
Oh yeah, you can
just go run it
with parameters. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is where the admin service log comes in really handy.
Yes, definitely. So I've got a script that was that the only one I've got published? Or is it? Oh, never mind. Sorry, this is what's been run. Okay. So over here, I've got one that should like manage a service maybe. Oh, come on. Surely one of them has. Does any of them? I don't know. I don't know if I have any one of these that have. Ooh, yuck. I don't know if I have a script with a parameter in it.
I don't know if you do,
but I could use my module to create one, but I'm gonna get stage fright and not be able to do it. So I'm gonna just come in here and do it this way. All right. So while I'm digging around, think of other questions you might have, because we're almost at it. We might already be out of time. Greg, are we out of time? We've gone over.
Nope. We got like 7 more minutes.
Okay.
You guys
awesome.
have it.
And I'm just trying right now what I'm actually looking for.
That's
on
what
my
I want.
end.
All right, this is the one. This one works. Manage scripts. I just wasn't seeing it just was not showing me everything. Oh, so Oh, I think they may not let you run scripts that have parameters because I've got 22 scripts in here, and that's a good question. I haven't actually tried that. That's probably why Kevin set us up. Well done, Kevin. Well done.
Yeah.
Not the SMS provider. Where are we at? So when it's loading script information, how are they filtering it? So they're just v10 script information filter feature equals 0, approval has parameters equals 0. There it is. So so they're not letting us, at least from the web, you can't pass in the ones with parameters, which means the admin service might not be able to do that. But we can follow up on that. But does that make sense why it's not showing it? I'm just asking the ether, but
yeah, I think that's a good catch there. Now, to kind of expand on this, so a lot of the session was all about the art of the possible. And so the short answer is, even if you can't necessarily do it with a direct call here, it doesn't preclude you from potentially, launching things in other ways. You might be able to find a way using, a function app or something where you've got a stored script or, but yeah, it would still at that point not be a direct admin service call. So
but so what we're looking for here is the admin service.run script in the metadata here. So then, so if we go, see if we can load that. Run script. That's run script. Okay, so then it's bind parameter. So it's just binding on the device, and then the script GUID. So yeah, there's not. Yep, we'll have to dig into that and see if they're going to add that eventually. Maybe we're missing it. But good question.
Yeah, very good question. I'm just going to share my screen here for just a second, just because I want to demonstrate one other thing real quick. So obviously, Adam was showing you in PowerShell essentially what he was doing. One minor difference. So when you're doing things through Power App, like, don't get me wrong, the module is really cool and really awesome. But when you're doing things in Power Apps or Power Automate, this, for example, is just a simple call, get device by host name. And what we're doing is we're using an HTTP connector here. And all this one is going to be doing is more similar to just a straight API call. So while the module is, Adam's doing something with the module, here, what I literally did, and so this was an earlier version where it was more hard-coded. I'm making a GET request, again, directly against my URI, and then I'm just passing in, this first one was the filter value, and then the second one, or right over here, I'm passing in the bearer token for authorization. So when you're doing these things, there's definitely a lot of value to doing it with the module. But there's also, if you're looking at doing things with Power Apps or Power Automate, you're going to want to be able to understand how to just make those simple calls. And kind of what Adam was saying earlier, there's not a real good way to just discover all of the different options that are available in the admin service. Like with Microsoft Graph, it's really well documented, and we can go out. We've got Microsoft Docs, we've got Graph Explorer, and everything. We can play with it. When I was building out most of these, Adam was actually working on his module on the side, and I was looking at the module, finding the API calls he was already using, and then popping them in here. So I just want to call that out. It is just a minor difference, and kind of one of those things that, depending on how you're coming at it, there's going to be different ways that you're formatting the request.
I really apologize, but I'm spamming the chat with a list of URLs because I was trying to bullet them, and the bulleting in Teams is non-existent, so yay. But let me show you this one last bit, and then we will be done. Share, if I can figure that out one more time. Come on, do the thing. Okay, so did you know you can do this?
Oh yes, this
all right. So this was the comment. This was the
article.
Article from Russ Rimmerman. So Russ is based out of I think he's based out of Houston, and I've met him, I know him, I like him, and he even like referenced my blog and stuff about this. And he wrote this in 2021, and he went through how to set up an Azure App Proxy app registration to hit the CMG. And really, the reason he's doing that is because he's customizing it and adding a secret to it, and so he didn't want to use the built-in stuff. But effectively, what he did here was something that Sean and I were continued to struggle with, trying to get token auth to work. And right now, our Power Apps all actually have credentials embedded in them, and we don't want that. So we want to switch over to what Russ has done, and yet we're still, I've got it working over the Azure App Proxy, but we're still having trouble getting it working over CMG. But ultimately, you make a custom connector within Power Apps, and then you can do all the same things we're doing. And then this is the stuff that Russ has built out. Now, Russ is a PFE or whatever the new name is for the Microsoft Customer Engineer stuff. If you call Russ and say, hey, I want to talk about your Power App for admin service, he might even give you this code. We need to just do that, Sean, and steal it from him.
We should
but
probably do that. Yeah.
But look what he's been able to build all in Power Apps using admin service. So he's got much of what we've done plus more. Listing out collections. Here's our app deployments for things. He's got all of the run actions and the scripts, looking at custom collection memberships, all the bits and pieces. He's even got a chat bot built in.
Yeah.
So like, dude, he's killing us, man. So what's cool is like you could take all of this stuff and build it, and maybe, I wonder.
Oh, look.
I haven't even bothered to check to see.
It's probably out there. Published? It's been out there the whole time.
Probably. We just haven't even bothered to click on it, have we?
Big Manager?
Maybe. No. Okay. Whew. All right. But regardless, the stuff that he's got here is phenomenal. We just can't figure out how to get it to work right. But what we want to show you is just what you can do with this, and like go make this your own. Go start doing stuff with this. Pass it off to your, to your dev guy who doesn't have anything else to do right now. Say, hey man, use this, make this API do things for me. The way I've been looking at wanting to do this is, integrating this into a custom help desk portal of some sort. I know that like part of me says, yeah, but Microsoft's already doing it with MIM Admin Center, and look at all the things they've already added and stuff. And yet I'm like, but there's still more we want to do. We want to customize it. I want to make it portable. I want to put it on my phone. So, someday somebody will do this. I don't have cycles to do it. I would love to just go nuts with this stuff, but hopefully somebody will pick this up and do some cool things and share it with the community. By the way, did I mention you can run CM Pivot? You can do it with admin service because that's what it does. So you can run CM Pivot from the cloud, but then you can also run it from your phone if you wanted to do that. It's coolness. All right.
So just to kind of expand on what Adam was saying. So a lot of this, I know one of the big questions we got at MMS is, hey, are you guys going to publish out this Power App? And the long story short was, yeah, once we get authentication working right, essentially. And so that's what we've been both kind of working on in our free time. Because the version that we're both using right now on our phones, we are passing in a plain text username and password to get the token. And so obviously we don't want you guys doing that. So I know that we're both going to keep working on this, the custom connector, which is going to prevent that. So follow him, follow me. We'll get that out. The other side of it, I also just posted a link to, it's all of the blogs that I've written on Graph API, which there's a lot of stuff on. There's a lot of different stuff on there around Power Apps, Power Automate. I've got a demo Power App that I did for Intune from MS that's on there. And then my next few posts are actually going to be talking about how that was built. So a lot of good information on how to use Power Apps and everything and run with this once we get it out there.
Yep. And what I would say, or I guess the other bit on that is, so one of the links that I put out there was, oh God, I shouldn't have looked at the screen yet. Maybe lose my train of thought. Thanks, Greg. One of the links I put in there is my GitHub repo that I just have published so the idea here is that I'm going to turn that into, I've got to set up the Azure the automation for DevOps to publish this to PowerShell gallery. So if you're going to fork the repo or something, just use it for reference. There's a build script in there that actually will generate the build of the module and things. So anyway, use it with caution, but we're definitely still working through some of those things. I just wanted to make sure I get it out there.
I think I'm going to reach out to Russ and see if he'll consider presenting at a future meeting here too. I think that would be good. Would love to see him walk through. You know, I think we could all get some value out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we can just knock this one out, man. Like,
Party on it. Yeah.
been sitting on it for so long. Like, we just need to. I just want to. I want people to. I want to see like things, and yet I clearly missed it when somebody was already doing. So
You know,
yeah.
Adam, if your org has some Microsoft credits, maybe you can just get get Russ to come over and work with you for a few hours or days.
Yeah, I
There you
think
go.
we're gonna work something like that out. You know, the bummer part about this is I expect us to be done with Config Manager as an org for my org probably within the next year, because we're largely in tune at this point. We've done all the code management sliders, everything's over. We're going to be starting autopilot later this year. Like we're on the, from a desktop side, we're almost done with Config Manager. And so I can't see from a work or
think you're
personal
hooked.
perspective
You've
putting
got
much
you
more
have to
work
finish it.
into this. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, right. I don't want
Yeah,
to.
it's
Somebody
the
else.
Atom service. I mean, it's
Yeah.
It is the Atom service. I thought of that too. Yeah.
literally the name of one of my custom connectors is the Atom service because it was running my head against the wall, and then Adam sent me his version, which wasn't doing that much different, but it works. I'm like, that's the Atom service.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, good job on the key vault, man. That thing's awesome.
Oh yeah, man, it is
Yeah.
it is great. And you know, I didn't really get into it, but and maybe David, you've seen this, but natively within PowerShell, there's a local, there's a vault component built into PowerShell that lets you manage secrets, and so you can create a local vault, and then or you can connect your vault to your local vault to your Azure Key Vault, and it's phenomenal. Like, so you can manage all your secrets within within your PowerShell instance without, or locally on your machine, without actually having to have them sitting in text files, or having run the risk of the number of times I've published secrets to my GitHub repos and had to scrub them is shameful. So so that's pretty cool. If you've never looked into it, dig into the secrets vault stuff. Register secret vault would be the get secret vault, and register secret vault would be the commands that we're using in the module.
All right. Any final questions?
So I see Nick's question here. Do you have to stick with co-management to have this part of the service desk? So the ultimate answer there is, if you're
No.
wanting to use the admin service, then yeah, you need co-management. But
No, you
No?
don't. No,
oh, you can hit the.
you just need cloud attached. You don't need the
Oh,
co-manage.
so I
Yeah.
think he was saying when you guys moved to Intune. You
Oh, sure.
specifically, yeah.
Yeah.
But there are things you can do with Intune that are very similar, obviously, because you've got the Graph API, and then you know, you can do the same thing with Power Apps there in Intune. Now, you don't have some of the cool features. Config Manager definitely has a lot more that you can do through the admin service than you can do through Intune. But you know, if we keep yelling at Microsoft long enough, maybe they'll turn around and expose more options through Graph API. But
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, thank you, and thank you, special guest Sean, for making time and making it here as well. You guys have a good banter. It works out really well. So appreciate your time and your conversation. If I'll curate the links you guys posted in here. If you have any additionals, if you want to send them my way, and I'll post them in the blog. That would be great. You see, I did post some of the captions from your photo. We'll have to think of a couple others, but that should be a late night Frosted Flakes commercial, right? I mean, there's something there that we can all feel that. And I didn't realize until this session, Adam, that's me in the background. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, I saw it.
I was like, I have that shirt. Oh wait, that's me.
It's
Never
because
mind.
you're so tiny now that you don't recognize yourself.
Yeah, that's it. Yep, and balding. But yeah.
I eat
All
more
right.
cereal at night than I ever eat in the morning.
Yeah, I'd probably eat that whole box at night.